7th verse, same as the first, am I right? Actually, no! I'm not right, because that would imply that Season 7 of SpongeBob SquarePants is on the same level of quality as the first season, which is very much not the case. Welcome everyone to the SpongeBob SquarePants Season 7 Retrospective, featuring my personal least favorite season of the entire show. If you've been keeping up with this retrospective so far, first of all, thank you. And second of all, you'll know that I've said over and over that I don't think SpongeBob has a single straight up bad season. However, Season 7 is the closest this franchise has ever gotten to crossing that scary threshold. At least for the main show, anyways. I haven't rewatched Camp Coral yet, so I'll get back to you on that. Why did this season turn out this way? I could not tell you. My theory is that it suffered from the same issues Season 6 went through, but put under a magnifying glass. Basically, writers' burnout and Nickelodeon breathing the stench of death down their necks. See, that second thing especially makes a lot of sense to me. All of these writers, artists, and Paul Tibbitt himself are clearly very talented people, and I sincerely doubt that they wanted the season to turn out like this. Nickelodeon sticking their neck where it doesn't belong and forcing the crew to play things way too safe seems like the likelier timeline of events to me. I apologize in advance if a lot of these reviews end up blending together as a result. A contributing factor as to why Season 7 is my least favorite season is that so many episodes are just so damn boring. It really is the midward season of the entire show. It's the only season where the amount of episodes I don't like come dangerously close to outnumbering the episodes I do like. Exactly half and half, actually, and I didn't even plan it that way. Season 7 is also the only time where the 1 out of 10 episodes outnumber the 10 out of 10 episodes. It's not too late for me to back out, I swear to God. And before any of you chumps decide to leave comments whining about my reviews where I get mad at certain episodes and take things way too seriously for a kid's cartoon like a 2010s cartoon reviewer, yeah, that's kind of the point. Unless I specifically state otherwise. Whenever I get furious or express any exaggerated emotion in these videos, it's clearly for comedic effect and entertainment purposes. Me acting condescending and Machiavellian towards episodes I don't like is just part of the whimsy. We're all here to have fun, guys. It's not that serious. Just thought I'd clear the air on that a bit. Enough stalling the intro, though, because God knows I really don't want to do this. Season 7 has 50 episode segments, making it tied for second place as the season with the most episodes. Get ready for some highs, a lot of lows, and a brand new mini-series of episodes. Like Mr. Krabs says, it's now or never. Let's get this over with. So, after all that negative buildup, you'd probably expect me to come out swinging and rip the very first episode to pieces, wouldn't you? Tentacle-Vision is an episode I think is very, very entertaining, and probably Season 7's best Squidward episode. Oh lord, already? Oh no. Being the second season in a row whose opener is about Squidward and a TV show, said Squidward gets his own public access television program, which results in it getting hijacked by the other characters and their dim-witted antics. When I was a wee lad, this was an outing I actively despised and avoided at all costs. My thought process back then was, Squidward just wanted his own television show and the other characters ruined it for no reason! Thankfully, since then, I've mellowed out from being a really autistic child to a really autistic adult who finds jokes about Patrick wetting himself to be funny. Because they bring in so many characters at such a rapid rate, the gags just come flying at you a mile a minute.
Patrick, just how dumb are you? It varies.
We even get to see stupid-ass Sandy doing her stupid-ass dance. But no character here even comes close to touching the true star of Squidward chat, Zeus the Guitar Lord. He doesn't have a guitar yet, but if he did, he'd want a really killer one. His goofy design paired with his awkward teen line delivery makes him a real standout face in a season filled with really hit-or-miss one-off characters. Part of me feels like I definitely prefer a version of this episode that actually focuses on Squidward's TV show. He is admittedly dealt a very unfair hand here. But dang it, this episode strikes that perfect balance of being both stupid and charming. 8 out of 10. Channel number 12. Tentacle-Vision does not represent the overall quality of the season it's from, but hey, at least there are 11 episodes later down the line that are better than it. Question mark? This is going to be a long video. Hold up, don't change that channel yet, because it's that time again for our special guest. Looks like we're getting this one out of the way as soon as possible, and I don't blame him. Everyone, give a friendly howdy to Phantom Strider, one of the kindest people I've ever met. Thanks so much for getting back to me, Strider. It means so much to me. But now, the floor is yours. Knock 'em dead.
Howdy, Luke. Thanks for asking my opinion on the somewhat notorious Season 7. It's the home of many not-so-loved classics, such as A Powerful Gary and One Coarse Meal. But I like that you have an eye for the positives and can see the good in this season. Because as you say, there's some definite good qualities. In fact, some episodes stood out to me as legitimately funny, like Tentacle-Vision. I've been told by commenters that this is a divisive episode and many don't like it, but I had some good chuckles throughout it. We get a little more character development from Squidward, seeing that he's interested in running his own show on public access. Given most of the time we're hearing exclusively that he hates his job and that he plays the clarinet badly, I found this a nice change of pace. Plus, the jabs they make at public access television feel very on point, and it's delightful to see Squidward just so excited about getting his own public broadcast show. Even if he's only going out to an audience of 10 or so people, he just wants to express his opinion and broadcast himself. It makes me think he would have had a very active YouTube channel if Bikini Bottom had YouTube. I've heard some people get annoyed at Squidward's show getting repeatedly interrupted by the cast, but I think it's really funny seeing the entire SpongeBob crew crash his show in their own silly personal ways. The way everything just goes wrong for him just cracks me up. One of my favorite parts is when Patrick becomes the cameraman and keeps focusing on everything in Squidward's house but Squidward. He just can't seem to keep the camera focused on him. And then the boom mic won't stand still. By the end, it's just a cluster mishmash of all our favorite characters, and I found it really charming. I just don't get the hate for this episode. In my opinion, it's one of the big highlights of Season 7. Thanks for asking my opinion, Luke. Good luck with the rest of the season.
Wait, is that who I think it is in the opening credits? Is that Mr. Doug Lawrence, the SpongeBob veteran and absolute chadjective who hasn't written for the show since Season 2, has graced us with his presence? What a season to come back to, huh? The good news, though, is that Mr. Lawrence is here to stay, as to this day, he is still one of the main writers on the show. People who I want to mail gift baskets to aside, I Heart Dancing isn't the first episode about Squidward teaching SpongeBob how to dance, and it's not the best one either. But it's still alright. I really like the idea of Squidward, despite hating SpongeBob's squishy guts, actually being jealous of something he's just naturally better at than him. But they don't really play that up enough for my tastes. This one would have been better if they either shined a bigger spotlight on Squidward's jealousy of SpongeBob, or focused on the actual dancing audition instead of most of the episode taking place in one room in Squidward's house. That's going to be a running motif in Season 7, unfortunately. Episodes focusing on the exact wrong thing instead of stuff that I know people would like to see more. But even then, I don't know, the SpongeBob and Squidward dynamic is still somewhat strong here. The jokes are pretty entertaining, and I find way more enjoyment in SpongeBob's extended showboating sequence, more than I probably should. Like, look at him go! He's schmoovin'! It's an episode that I have some issues with, but it's still a moderately toe-tapping good time. Low 7 out of 10, and it dances its way to number 24 on the list. Hey, the episode with, who put you on the planet, has gotta have some worth.
Here I go. Who put you on the planet?
Wait a minute, Squilliam is here? When the hell did he show up? Oh, okay, so Mr. Krabs just straight up uses rope as toilet paper. Gross! One crumb of praise I will heap onto Season 7 is that so far in the show, it's the season where Pearl appears in the most amount of episodes. Not all of them are good necessarily, but hey, it's better than what Season 5 could pull off. Keeping up the tradition of every single Pearl episode being good, Growth Spout doesn't stray from that path. Seeing Mr. Krabs frantically running around town and stealing food from people like a high-fructose boogeyman, combined with some of Aaron Springer's best material in Season 7, like that bit with Mrs. Puff interacting with the cops, creates a really memorable episode for me. It's just now hitting me that yet another reason why I like Pearl as a character so much is because that, since she's the only teenager on the show, it allows for the writers to create teenage-centric conflicts that are specific to her, and her only, such as her getting a growth spurt as seen here. And because Pearl is seldom used compared to other characters, these types of stories don't overstay their welcome. I think I'm actually kind of talking myself into liking this episode more than I already do. Growth Spout doesn't have me clog dancing the Irish jig or anything, but shut up! This is Season 7 we're talking about, so I'll take any W's whenever I can. The W here stands for whale. 8 out of 10, number 16 on my ranking. Closing thoughts? I'd like to congratulate Squidward's house for his weight loss. Too bad our good episode streak seems to end here for a while. The good times never last. They never do. Well. Only 4 episodes into this, and Season 7 already gifts me with one of SpongeBob's most infamous episodes in the history of history. Stuck in the Wringer is one that I have been waiting to discuss with bated breath for a while. And now that the ball is in my court, I have the opportunity to say that this one is not that bad, you guys. Out of all of Season 7's most despised episodes, this is the one that I think is kind of overhated. Does that mean I believe it's good? Probably not. But I wholeheartedly think that the reaction to this episode has been blown up tenfold due to hyperbolic reviews from the 2010s. If you know, you know.
I guess crying does solve your problems after all.
No! You cannot say that!
Let's break this episode down into its 2 most shunned aspects, and why I think they're not as bad as others do. First off, Patrick's characterization. While I do hold the opinion that Season 7 is where Patrick's personality is at its worst, trust me, we will fucking get there, but here, Patrick is fine. People take issue with how overly dumb Patrick is here, accusing him of making SpongeBob's situation worse on purpose. But I couldn't disagree more. Throughout the entire episode, Patrick tries to be nothing but helpful and kind to SpongeBob. He motivates him to go to work, tries to make SpongeBob feel better by taking him to fun places, including a cameo of Super Weenie Hut Jr.'s, which was a nice surprise. And when Patrick realizes just how serious the situation is, he feels horrible about it and breaks down in tears. It's not like stupid, shitty future episodes we'll get to later where Patrick makes a situation worse because, haha, Freddy! Patrick's mistakes here come from a place of misguided earnestness. You know, the thing that people like about Patrick's character. And second of all, and probably most egregious to people, the scene where SpongeBob snaps at Patrick, causing the Bikini Bottomites to get angry at SpongeBob in return. In defense of this scene, the Bikini Bottomites obviously have no context as to what is happening here. We saw that Patrick was trying to be a good friend, but all they see is a guy blowing up at another guy, all because he tried to help. They don't know what SpongeBob's been through this whole episode. It's extremely understandable, and dare I say earned, why everyone turns their backs on him. The background characters in this show have acted worse in pre-movie episodes, and even episodes later on in this season. Do not fucking kid yourself. And, you know, so far I've been up to bat for Stuck in the Ringer, but don't get it twisted. For me, this is still a 5 out of 10 episode, ringing itself into the number 30 spot on my list. The pacing here really needed some tightening up to make room for more gags, because while I like a few of the bits here, it's nowhere near one of the funniest episodes, even in this season. And really, it's still not that entertaining of a watch either. There are plenty of other outings I simply enjoy watching more than this one. This still suffers from the Season 7 slowness that infests a lot of these episodes like a plague. Stuck in the Ringer is one of the only infamous episodes in Season 7 that I'd classify as overhated, and trust me, there's plenty of worse trash in this season that's gonna wring me dry later. As of now, there's an upcoming episode in Season 14 called Pinned, about SpongeBob getting pinned under his exercise equipment. And there's no doubt in my mind that's just going to be a better version of this episode. You want to know something funny? Season 7 has 2 Plankton and Sandy episodes. One of them is very well liked and regarded by many as one of the best episodes of the season, and the other is very disliked and regarded by many as one of the worst episodes of the season. Can you guess which one this is? That's 2 universally hated episodes in a row. We're on a roll. Around this time, the writers must have thought that Plankton being a microscopic body snatcher was like the funniest thing ever, because Season 7 does it 3 times! 3! This wouldn't even be a problem in the slightest, except for 2 things. 1. All of these episodes must be in a polyamorous relationship because they're all so close together! They're in the same season! And 2, all 3 of them are extremely similar to each other. And the sad thing is, this one had the potential of being the best out of the trio. I actually really enjoy the idea of Plankton stealing Sandy's pelt and piloting around like a reanimated corpse of a furry, and Sandy trying to steal it back. Except for 2 things. 1, Plankton's side of the story is really boring, and all that happens is that he and SpongeBob stand around in the kitchen. And 2, Sandy's side of the story is filled with plot holes and unpleasant background fish. Why didn't Sandy just put on her suit that she wears quite literally all the time? Who cares, dumbass? Look at these original concepts and storyboards for furless Sandy. Another very strong problem I have with Season 7 is that they mostly only ever use, like, 3 locations.
3?
The Krusty Krab, Conch Street, and beige sand and blue sky nothingness. And to further demonstrate my point, we're gonna keep a counter of every episode that majorly takes place in one of these 3 locations. Someone's in the kitchen with Sandy. Yeah, maybe someone should be in other locations with Sandy too! Ever think of that? There are a few bits I like here, but really only a few. 4 out of 10, and number 35 on the ranking. Bro wants to be Imitation Krabs so badly. Oh, that title. That is just a cornucopia of jokes waiting to happen. This might not be saying much, but this is easily my favorite episode of Season 7 so far. 9 out of 10, number 6 on the list. Also... what? I have to do it for episodes I like, too. Remember Plankton's introduction episode? Remember how they proved that, despite being the size of a baby carrot, he could be a legitimate threat by controlling SpongeBob's body from the inside? Remember how badass that was? Well, here's a spiritual sequel to that episode that expands on the ideas in ways that the original didn't. The inside job follows a pretty simple structure of Plankton going to a location inside of SpongeBob's body to look for the Krabby Patty secret formula, fucking things up in ways only Plankton can, and then moving on to the next area.
I love Krabby Patty.
It is pretty basic, but the setup, the jokes, and the goals of our main character make this a pretty unique way to do a Fantastic Voyage story. Bringing Mr. Lawrence back as a writer and then having the first Plankton episode he writes being one huge homage to Plankton's original debut is so poetic in so many ways. Also, when I said funny, I actually meant hilarious.
This is it! Move it! You're mine!
Hey, where do you want this life-size cutout of you, Mr. Krabs?
Because Season 7 is so... let's just say standard compared to every other, a lot of my favorites this time around have to rely mostly on strong writing and good gags to make it high up on my list. Luckily, the inside job has both of those, as well as an added sprinkle of creativity as well. No wonder it's so high up on the ranking. An inside story that I'll be sure to keep in my mind for as long as I can, lest Plankton try to steal it, of course. Would everyone like to see the thing that made me lose my mind the hardest throughout my entire Season 7 rewatch? Well, here you go.
Looks like it says new. Ultra chubby patties packed with quadruple grilled goodness.
I have no idea why this made me laugh so hard. I think it's the, otherworldly voice Tom Kenny does for this innocuous background character. I may just be self-reporting here, but I happen to like greasy foods, so seeing Krabs and Plankton trying to out-grease each other by selling increasingly greasy foods at speeds of greased lightning sounds like my idea of a fun watch. New mukbang challenge idea. See who can eat the most amount of new, wow, soup before getting sent to the hospital. That's a McDonald's joke if I've ever seen one. Speaking of restaurants, seeing Krabs and Plankton compete with each other in something that doesn't revolve around the secret formula is a nice change of pace. And for once in this hellscape of a season, the pacing here is actually fast enough to keep up with all the gags they wanted to tell. There's multiple jokes here, and most of them are funny. Greasy Buffoons isn't even the most spectacular episode I've ever seen in my life or anything, but compared to a lot of other episodes here, it's a godsend. 7 out of 10, number 22 on my greasy little ranking. Though I have to say, what the hell is SpongeBob doing driving the grease truck, though? SpongeBob can't drive! Gee, I really hope someone got fired for that blunder.
A job that only 2 volunteer employees could do for no extra pay.
Welp, We are now 8 segments into this, and I have already gotten to the first one that I don't have much to say about. Okay, so through a wacky misunderstanding, SpongeBob thinks he's been fired from the Krusty Krab, so he pursues a new job as a commercial actor. That sounds good on paper, and to be honest, it kind of is, but God, I am getting so sick of complaining about this already, but the pacing here is so slow. First, we gotta have a very drawn-out scene of SpongeBob in denial over being fired. Then we gotta spend a whole scene of him blubbering about it with Patrick. Then there's a montage of SpongeBob trying to find other jobs. Then SpongeBob finally finds out about the acting position, but of course not before there's a long, drawn-out sequence of SpongeBob auditioning for the role, and then we finally get to the, admittedly really good, commercial scene when there's only a couple minutes left. A lot of episodes during this era of the show so far have had this problem, and a lot more episodes during this era will continue to have this problem. If it were me writing Model Sponge, the changes I'd make would be have SpongeBob think he's fired immediately into the runtime, then when he's sulking, have him find out about the commercial audition, completely cut out the montage and audition scenes, and then have the rest of the story be dedicated to the nautical nonsense that ensues with SpongeBob being in the commercial. It's not that hard! It can't be! This is an episode that does have one really good scene and some legitimately really good expressions for what is the most stiff-looking season in the show, but it happens to be surrounded by a bunch of okayness. I don't know. Very, very low 7 out of 10. Number 25 on my list. Not exactly a model episode, but hey, people started joking about SpongeBob being a porn star because of it, so at least that's something. Who's ready for some YouTube poops?
No!
Well, here's one that people talk a lot of trash about. It's just an episode about Squidward and SpongeBob picking up trash around Bikini Bottom. What could be wrong with it? Squidward, torture porn, and, the cop! Ooh, the cop! Police brutality! Annoying running gag! Well, gee, it's a good thing that I find the supposed Squidward torture to be funny then, isn't it? It's just nice to see these two have a lot of back and forths with each other, as well as SpongeBob genuinely trying to help Squidward accomplish his goal. All while Squilliam Fancy Son eggs him on the whole time like the social parasite he is. Cherish him while he lasts, because we're about to say bye-bye to him very soon, unfortunately. And then there's this asshole piece of garbage police officer. He is the face of what many people declare the worst running joke in the entire show. Every time he shows up, you can bank on the fact that the Bikini Bottom police theme, trademark, will follow him like a godforsaken virus. He seems to have a personal vendetta against this octopus because he shows up throughout the episode so much. I mean, I totally get why people hate this character because really, the bit does happen extremely frequently throughout the episode. But I don't know, man, I just think the gag is funny. The cop shows up so many times and gives Squidward so much rubbish that as soon as I think I'm getting sick of the joke, it finds a new way to make me laugh. Episode is funny. The end. 8 trash piles out of 10. Number 15 on the ranking. At least a more universally liked episode about SpongeBob and Squidward picking up trash will soon see the light of day 4 seasons from now. Garbage. He's made of garbage. Oh, speaking of garbage, everyone say hello to the mother of all bad SpongeBob episodes. Probably the singular SpongeBob episode that the internet has stomped into the dirt the most. People were starting to get wary of the show's quality around season 6, but A Pal for Gary was practically the point of no return. Every bad or negative thing that could ever be said about a piece of fiction has probably already been said about this one. And dropping the hyperbole for a few seconds, it really is fucking awful. I may have some opinions that run polar opposite to the common consensus, but no, not this time. 1 out of 10. Number 49 on the list. It's only the second worst. Good lord. The premise is honestly dead on arrival, as nobody likes these new pet causes havoc and the old pet gets blamed for it cliches that show up way too often in shows. Has anybody ever liked these? Genuine question, because I can't imagine that anybody would even enjoy writing these, let alone watching them. It seems to me like the type of thing that you'd only write if the ideas jar is astronomically low. But at that point, why even bother? Also, shocker of the century, but this is a Gary episode. I know I've bitched about Gary episodes before. Dumped is still in my bottom 10 for the entire show, but season 7 in particular is really unkind to this little guy. Episodes that are mean to Squidward still work for me for the most part, because Squidward is an egotistical, narcissistic prick, and the world crapping all over him is usually done in a fun way. Gary, on the other hand, is an animal! He's just sitting over here trying to vibe, yet he's tormented by this twisted creature who admittedly has a sick design and is featured in some absurdly well-animated scenes the entire episode. I'm usually not one to get up in arms about the morality of cartoons, but this isn't a morality issue. This is basic writing. And don't even get me started on the notorious SpongeBob scene. You know the one. You all know that I usually find SpongeBob acting oblivious and stupid to be charming and funny, but they pushed it too far here. This is where they crossed a line. They attempted to tell a joke by exaggerating one of SpongeBob's traits, but they stretched it too much. So yeah, thanks season 7. Thanks for being another Gary episode to add to the pile of episodes that put this mollusk through misery for no reason. Thanks for ruining SpongeBob's character to a near unfixable degree for so many people. Thanks for being the first SpongeBob episode to air during the 2010s decade and completely annihilating any good faith people had with this franchise. Good faith which, mind you, the franchise is still to this day struggling to earn back. You absolute accursed piece of dog shit! To end this on a somewhat positive note, I think it's neat that Doug Walker, also known as the Nostalgia Critic, seems to like this episode. It's a reminder to me that no matter how objectively bad something seems to a lot of people, there are others out there who will enjoy it regardless. Everyone is different and has their own personal sensibilities after all. I would make a joke about hoping that my next episode is better, but I already know what it is, and I want to die. I want to go home. Something I've taken notice of during this particular rewatch of the show is that most, not all, of the characters kind of work on a negative bell curve. Most of them start really good, slowly get worse over time, hit rock bottom during this exact season, and then slowly start to improve again starting with season 8. And no character better represents this negative bell curve than Patrick Star. He started off as one of the show's best characters, started showing his negative, unlikable traits during season 2, but still had plenty of good episodes under his belt for the next few seasons. And then he just completely falls off during season 7, before slowly climbing his way back up to be likable again in future seasons. And full stop, Yours, Mine, and Mine is Patrick's worst appearance in the entire series. So much so that this used to be my absolute least favorite episode of the entire show as a kid because of Patrick.
No!
I actively wanted to throw something at my TV, and then throw my TV at something. Usually in other episodes where Patrick acts like a douchebag, they either give him a reason to act the way he does, or at the bare minimum, even if it's a portrayal of his that I dislike, I can at least see the attempt at a joke. Like, I could see why someone would find his scenes in Grandma's Kisses or Rule of Dumb funny, even if I don't. So, can somebody please tell me, who wants to see Patrick act like a bitchy, spoiled 5-year-old who can't do as much as share a toy for 11 minutes? That's basically what they wrote him as. And then the episode has the absolute audacity to call out SpongeBob, who sounds really sick here, I guess Tom Kenny had a cold that day, as being just as bad. He was completely in the right the whole time. He bought the toy with his own money, let Patrick play with it first, acted totally fair towards Patrick, and then only stood up for himself when his kindness was being taken advantage of. And look! Conch Street! I hope you're excited to see this riveting location a billion more times in this goddamn season! Yours, Mine, and Mine could have been a funny way to shove a fat middle finger in the face of the sharing moral you see in every baby show ever, but that doesn't mean you turn one of your main characters into a completely different person to do it! That's not how you write a character! 1 out of 10, number 47! This season has 4 1 out of 10s, and this is the only time ever where there are 2 of them back to back. What is going on?
Patrick, that's my money.
Have you learned nothing about sharing?
Wait, so every single crab in this universe is cheap? Isn't that kind of racist? Finally, after 2 straight episodes in a row of actual poop fiction, Kracked Krabs feels like salvation at this point. It's a SpongeBob and Krabs episode, which doesn't involve the Krusty Krab or Plankton or the secret formula or anything. It takes place in, get this, a new location. Good job, Season 7. That's definitely a good start. It could be argued that Krabs is just being used here as a vehicle to be one-dimensionally cheap again, but they actually do something interesting with it here. This is weaponized cheapness. He is trying to win a competition after all. This one has a very similar appeal to me as something like Cephalopod Lodge, where we get to witness more characters from the same species interacting with each other. And the writing here is really sharp too. This one swindled a lot of laughs out of me.
On this trip, I'm gonna teach you ugly cheapskate knowledge like you were the son I never wanted.
Ooh, can I call you Daddy?
No.
Pa?
No.
Pop?
No.
Papa?
No.
My old man?
No.
Daddykins?
Maybe.
Grampy Joe?
No.
I might even like this one more than Shell of a Man, another Krabs and SpongeBob go to a convention type episode. This'll be the only time I compare a Season 7 episode favorably to a Season 4 episode. Don't get used to it. Season 7 is probably the worst season for Mr. Krabs ever. Imagine my shock. But Kracked Krabs is a rare glimmer of hope for his character during this season. They even perform a devious lick! Yo! Huh. Season 7 has more memes associated with it than I thought. Love this one. 9 cracks out of 10. Number 7 on my ranking. This crab may be cracked, but my spirit sure isn't. Yet. And now to pass off editing duties onto someone else, Adios, muchachos! Woohoo!
Ooh, it's another spooky episode. Ooh, even though it's not a Halloween special, but it still fits the theme. Ooh.
Okay, so I have a bone to pick with this one. And what I'm about to say is going to make me sound like a stark raving lunatic, but just hear me out, alright? The Curse of Bikini Bottom is the most un-SpongeBob-like episode in the series. To me. I don't know, something about the vibe and tone of this episode has always felt weird and off to me. SpongeBob and Patrick refer to Squidward as Old Man Squidward.
Let's go look for something to do in Old Man Squidward's shed.
Old Man Squidward's shed!
Certain scenes just straight up don't use the bubble transitions. The Flying Dutchman lives underground instead of on his pirate ship for some reason. And even some of the gags have a slightly off-kilter quality to them. Like, the one frame of character sliding up from the bottom of the screen while a goofy sound effect plays feels so, I don't know, YouTube animation parody to me. I swear I'm not going crazy, right? I've never felt this way towards another single episode in the show's history, but this one specifically feels like it was written by people who have never worked on the show before. Which isn't true, by the way. All of the writers here are series veterans. And being fully transparent, this isn't even an actual criticism or complaint or anything. I am fully aware that this is strictly just a me thing. Truthfully, The Curse of Bikini Bottom is pretty good. 7 out of 10,
rising out of the grave to the 21st spot on the list.
The Flying Dutchman really does haunt this show like a ghost, though. Out of every character, he really is the one who just shows up whenever he damn well pleases. Could you guess that this is his only Season 7 appearance? I would have preferred if this episode had a more palpable atmosphere and faster-paced comedy to go along with SpongeBob and Patrick's Danny Phantom antics. But even still, it has the spirit of a satisfactory SpongeBob experience. Did you know that footage from this episode was shown in the background of the movie Paranormal Activity 4? Wouldn't be the first time a ghost-themed episode of the show was featured in a horror movie. Just you wait until we get to the Ghost of Plankton. You'll just die of anticipation. They got me. I am unable to move. Anyways, this is what I'm talking about. Alice in Wonderland is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. Essentially just being wacky the movie. So anytime a show does as much as flirt with the idea of a light parody of this film, I am instantly entranced by the idea. It's essentially just a cartoonist's paradise and an artist's dream come true, as they can actually get away with coming up with as many surreal, off-the-wall visuals as they want. But whoa, slow down there, dickhead. This is SpongeBob Season 7 we're talking about here. Surely there's gotta be some kind of catch. Yep, that fucking figures. The ClarinetLand scenes are legitimately so cool, and honestly such a genius way to take a peek into Squidward's psyche. Yet they take up so little screen time that I can only assume that this aspect of the episode was added last minute. And you know what's magical? Despite all of that, Squidward in ClarinetLand is one of the few episodes in Season 7 that can be classified as a fan favorite, which, knowing the reputation this season has, is an astronomical accomplishment.
Unacceptable. What's this? What's this? Outrage! Fuck you, Squidward. You drive a hard cock.
I guess it could also be because the actual main plot of Mr. Krabs installing a locker into the Krusty Krab is actually kinda clever and interesting. But like, at that point, why not just take both of these ideas and make them separate episodes instead of haphazardly cramming them together? Time crunch, I guess. High 7 out of 10, number 18 on the ranking. Another thing that I do really like about this one is that, out of probably every episode ever, this might be the one where Roger Bumpus gives his most angry Squidward performance. Half of his line readings don't even sound like he's voice acting. He just sounds genuinely upset. SpongeBob in Random Land, please save us.
Oh my god, guys, the SpongeBob series finale! Totally! That's so totally what this is!
For as much as I drag SpongeBob Season 7 through a bed of needles compared to every other, one singular defining aspect that this season is exceptionally really good at are the songs. Every single one of them is a certified banger, and I'd go as far to say that they stand shoulder to shoulder with some of the show's best music. The two songs here, titled Jellyfishing and Give Jellyfish Fields a Chance, while still being on the lower end of Season 7's playlist for me, are still really solid. They're legitimately catchy, have good bouncy melodies, and despite how the latter just has nonsense lyrics, they're still fun to sing along to. Now that that's out of the way, SpongeBob's Last Stand is SpongeBob SquarePants' de facto Save the Environment story. Being the first special in Season 7, it's about Plankton, in another attempt from the micro-bastard to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula, paving a highway through jellyfish fields, with SpongeBob and Patrick trying to raise public awareness of the situation to put a stop to Plankton's plan. If you couldn't tell, this special has the subtlety of a sledgehammer and the dignity of an average Captain Planet episode.
Instead of throwing away your aluminum cans, foil, and other reusable metals, take them to a collection center.
And admittedly, the environmentalist message isn't handled the greatest here. It is completely one-sided and doesn't give any alternative solutions as to why highways might actually be a good thing. This was advertised as SpongeBob's Earth Day special, so I feel it's fair to criticize it in this fashion. Thankfully for me, I don't watch SpongeBob for the social/political commentary. I watch it to be entertained. And boy, does this script have Aaron Springer's fingerprints all over it. Which is basically just my Luke Vaughn way of saying that I think the humor here is excellent.
Play coy with us, Shelly. We both know you've been up to no good. Now start talking.
All right, so I've been stealing your mail for the past 5 years. Big whoop.
Not that!
What? You've been what?
And in addition to that, this one is visually gorgeous for late post-movie standards. Lots of great expressions, dynamic storyboarding for the songs, impressive lighting and colors to properly set the mood. This one is a looker. Would it be a stretch to call SpongeBob's Last Stand kind of underrated? It's a high 8 out of 10 for me and is number 10 on the list. That might not sound like much, especially given how I've never had an 8 out of 10 in the top 10 before, but trust me, this is immense high praise for Season 7 standards. And, wow! This is even the only episode ever to have fan-favorite character, Sandy Squirrel! Relation to Sandy Cheeks is unknown. Hate. No other words. Just hate. Back to the Past seems to be the start of a stretch of episodes that I personally consider to be, bar none, the outright worst stretch of content in the entire franchise's history. That includes spin-offs, by the way. This stretch isn't completely devoid of good episodes, but God, are we in for some floppy ass cheeks. Back to the Past low-key kind of pisses me off. The idea here is brilliant! A time-traveling Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy adventure? And it's the first extended episode special since Shanghai from Season 2 as well? How could they possibly screw this up? This premise is practically gift-wrapping itself for you. Let's see. Well, for starters, the settings and visuals are so generic. Yeah, I love how despite this episode being about time travel, the visuals are boring as shit. Wow, blue sky and white sand? Never seen that one before! And then when they do go to a somewhat interesting setting, they barely even explore it! The Man Ray dystopia future is one of the most boring takes on this concept I think I've ever seen. They didn't even bother to change, like, the lighting. Also, this gotta be a contender alongside Yours, Mine, and Mine for Patrick's worst betrayal in the entire show. He is constantly making things worse, constantly pushing the plot forward in the most groan-worthy of ways, and doesn't do a single useful thing. Simply put, Patrick is not a character here. He is a plot device. A plot device who, no joke or exaggeration, gets Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy killed for no other reason than shock value, I guess? Which is a good segue into what is probably my biggest issue here, the tone. This episode cannot decide on a consistent tone to save its life. One moment, Man Ray will be the ruler of an apocalyptic dystopia, and Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy will literally be dead, and then the next scene will have what is quite possibly the biggest ass-pull ending I've ever seen in a time travel story. With several SpongeBob's and Patrick's appearing out of nowhere in the orange garage time machines because, haha, isn't time travel complicated? Isn't our time travel story so quirky and likable? Back to the Past would actually stand out in a positive way if they actually committed to a darker tone. You know, like what SB129 did? Also, everyone say their farewells to Squilliam because, not counting a gag cameo in Season 10, he never appears again after this episode. A moment of silence for this fan-favorite character. Season 7 of SpongeBob is one of the only cartoon seasons I've ever seen that makes a time travel plot fucking suck! I'm so glad that SB129 exists, as well as the Patrick Star Show regularly using time travel as a basis for episode ideas, because oh my god! This might be the single biggest wasted potential in the entire show. Adam West and Burt Ward guest starring was a nice surprise, and the scene of the two mermaid men fighting each other is the only legitimately funny scene in the entire episode. So I guess instead of giving it a 1 out of 10, I'll give it a 2 out of 10. Number 46 on my ranking. The visuals are extremely stale. Patrick is at some of his worst here. The episode keeps playing tonal tennis. The ending is one of the laziest I've ever seen. Get me out of this hellhole! Just watch the shorts based off of the special instead. For those of you who thought my videos on the first 6 seasons were too positive, I hope you're getting your fill. Hopefully, no video of mine in the future has to be this ranty ever again. What? I said this stretch of episodes would have a couple good ones. Season 7 having the least amount of 10 out of 10 episodes of any season in the show for me, that being only 3, might be really depressing, but at least we can appreciate them when they do show up. The absolute fucking Mach 5 force of whiplash I felt from watching both Back to the Past and this, literally back to back, would be enough to shatter Diamond. They're both Metroid Mammal and Ballad Boss episodes. They're both paired together, and they're both on the opposite sides of the quality spectrum. The Bad Guy Club for Villains is one of the only Season 7 episodes to actually attempt something creative with its visuals and tone, which on its own is commendable. Sure, it might just be a sepia tone VHS filter, but in a season like this, a little goes a long way. Most of the runtime here is just an elongated fight scene between the good guys and the bad guys, but it's fun.
Good night, balloon boy.
This is Season 7's shortest and simplest episode by a decent margin, so I don't have much to say, but sometimes the simplest episodes end up being some of the most effective. Seeing new takes on the IJLSA legit tugs at my heartstrings, though I guess this was before the existence of the Quickster. Bro is so quick you can't see him. I usually don't care for superhero-related things, but the Bad Guy Club for Villains is just more proof to me that a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy spin-off needs to happen. That's basically the closest you'll get to a legal money laundering scheme.
Remember, kids, no one can imprison you for reading.
I'm just gonna get my rating and ranking for this one out of the way immediately. 4 out of 10 and number 34 on my list. The premise is stupid, it has annoying audio, completely flakes out on having SpongeBob and Squidward be competitive with each other for once. You've heard all of the complaints before. However, I'm going to make a statement that may or may not be a controversial take, but it's something that I wholeheartedly believe. A Day Without Tears is the episode that I personally think single-handedly ruined SpongeBob's reputation as a character in the eyes of the public. Think about it. When you see art of classic SpongeBob meets modern SpongeBob, what is modern SpongeBob usually depicted doing? Crying, of course. This episode is solely responsible for this era's SpongeBob being diminished to nothing more than a big crybaby, which honestly has always been a little weird to me. SpongeBob has been a sensitive wuss since literally the very first season, and no other episode in the entire show's history has him crying this much. It is, admittedly, very excessive. Might be the only episode I can think of where SpongeBob has one personality trait. But I guess people hated this random below-average Season 7 episode so much that they felt SpongeBob just always acts like this now. An extremely huge overgeneralization, but whatever. Literally cry about it. Whenever this one isn't trying to tell the same joke over and over, it can be alright. I like the wholesome, casual little phone call SpongeBob and Patrick have with each other in this scene. And to my knowledge, this is also the last episode where the Homer Simpson fish appears! No, don't leave! How am I supposed to live, laugh, and love in these conditions? Other than that, boring. Yeah, I'm gonna need some tissues, alright, because I'm just crying at how mediocre this season is. Genuinely impressive to me how Season 7 has the show's worst Gary episode, the show's worst Mr. Krabs episode, the show's worst Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode, 2 of the show's worst Patrick episodes, and even the show's worst Mrs. Puff episode. And it's the only Mrs. Puff episode in the entire season! What a load of ass! A lot of these episodes suffer either from making the characters straight up unlikable and horrible, or in typical Season 7 fashion, just putting these characters into poorly written stories. For Mrs. Puff, it's the latter because you'd have to actively hate humanity and everything good in it for me to downright hate Mrs. Puff. This is both the show's worst Mrs. Puff episode and the show's worst X-character works at the Krusty Krab episode. Add another one to the generic location counter. The problem here isn't even Mrs. Puff herself, or the story, or even the jokes, really. A couple of the gags are legitimately funny.
Good day, milady. Charmed, I'm sure.
Funny costume, SpongeBob.
Forgive me, but I know not of this SpongeBob fellow. My name is Duke Thomas Feathermuffin, and I entered your place of business in hopes of procuring lunch on this fine day.
The actual issue I take with Summer Job is that nothing happens! Every scene consists of SpongeBob slowly teaching Mrs. Puff what to do, slowly dragging out every single moment, and ever so slowly testing my patience! Even comparing this to other episodes of its kind, there's no additional X factor or hook here to keep the viewer's attention. Episodes like Bossy Boots and Larry the Floor Manager have Pearl and Larry respectively transform the Krusty Krab in some big way. Big Pink Loser has a barrage of gags and an external conflict of Patrick wanting to win something. And Hot Crossed Nuts has Sandy's new food, which slowly overtakes the popularity of Krabby Patties. Each of these episodes have something to latch onto. Summer Job has the threat of Mrs. Puff being arrested. Never seen that one before. 3 out of 10, number 38 on my summer to-do list. You know that your season is cooked when its Resident Mrs. Puff episode makes me want to violently rip off my own ballsack. Ooh, Luke thinks that the funny Plankton suicide episode is bad. Congratulations for predicting that, dipshit. What do you want me to do now? Draw a picture of my cartoon avatar PNG smugly crossing my arms? Gather round, everyone! It's the infamous SpongeBob episode. The other infamous SpongeBob episode. Let me ask you a question. You think you're funny, huh? More realistically, this is what we should be asking the writers. Because who at Nickelodeon HQ thought it would be a good idea to have one of the main protagonists, someone we are supposed to be rooting for, drive another character to near literal suicide via stalking and harassment? It'd be one thing if it was treated as a joke. Looney Tunes basically invented cartoon characters comedically offing themselves. But this is treated as a serious, major plot point. This singular scene has been such a nasty blow to SpongeBob's reputation over the years that its ugly influence has been following it around like a 2,000-year-old foot fungus. What a dignified appearance this is for Mr. Krabs. This isn't even in the interest of financial gain anymore. The repulsive crustacean is just doing it for kicks now. It was a miracle that they were able to forklift Mr. Krabs' characterization out of the trenches after this. God bless the post-sequel era, man. And the thing with One Course Meal is that it has one of the best openings for a Plankton episode ever. And then it completely nosedives after the action sequence. Good thing the second SpongeBob movie would later repurpose this idea for its cold open. You know, an actually good piece of SpongeBob media. Also, an idea about Plankton and Pearl interacting with each other was later done light years better in the season 12 episode Plankton's Intern, effectively making this one useless. Congrats for existing, One Course Meal. You want a participation trophy? Another 3 out of 10, literally right below the last one at number 39. Yeah, One Course Meal may be bad, but it's not threaten and bully the writers bad, you fucking socially inept scum! What is wrong with you people? I don't actually outright loathe this one like so many other people do, hence why I don't have as much to rant about here. In fact, this one feels like a coughing baby compared to the other bad episodes in just this season alone. But considering how this episode is in a league of infamy all its own, I figured I'd give the people what they want and make a show out of it. Plankton got served and we all had to pay the bill for it. I hope the extra Pearl nightmares were worth it. Finally, a slightly above average Gary episode. Color me thankful. Don't get the wrong idea though. Gary in Love is really nothing special. Like, at all. It's about as bog standard and acceptable as an episode can get. But hey, I'll take a sappy but cute and likable love story over Gary being witch hunted by every other character. Season 7 has a really interesting love theme going on, doesn't it? An entire trilogy of episodes this season dedicated to the warm and fuzzies. All of which, of course, aired around Valentine's Day. Nice marketing strategy, Nickelodeon. What, did you get like an extra $12 from it? Gary, honest to God, dodged a bullet though. Girl acted all interested in him and led him on, and then the bitch immediately dumps him the second she sees someone more conventionally attractive. And thus, the message to take away from all this is, bros before hoes. A moral as old as time itself. Gary in Love is okay. They blatantly just reused Snelly's design from The Great Snail Race, changed the color of her bow, and changed her name to Mary, though. 6 out of 10, number 28 on the ranking. Also, haha, the villain snails in this are like some of the only snails I've ever seen in this franchise who talk and speak English. Short review, I know, but I don't care enough about this one to say anything else. Typical. Let's pass the hot potato to the next editor already. Condoms! Sex! Top 10 adult jokes in kids' cartoons that you missed? In another effort by Squidward Tentacles to make some kind of impact on the world before he kicks the bucket, he decides to put on his own play at the Krusty... Oh, come on! I didn't even get to finish my sentence that time! You know, plays are supposed to involve acting, as in pretending to be someone you're not. Guess that would explain why the Play's the Thing is just a dollar store version of Culture Shock from Season 1. Not to pull this card again, but like, Culture Shock was such a classic. It's basically the Russian roulette of SpongeBob episodes, with every scene being a new gag with a new character. The Play's the Thing is like a bitter old man with self-destructive tendencies by comparison. It's lethargic, has less characters, has scenes that actively get in the way of its own premise. Yeah, who wants to watch the Krusty Krab put on its first ever play when we could watch Squidward serving food to people? Like he always does! Like, in nearly every episode! I've heard of breaking a leg, but this script actively shoots itself in the foot! That's worse if the metaphor didn't make that clear. 4 out of 10, number 36 on the list. This one's yet another episode that introduces a lot of new original Sailor music to the show. Tracks such as Peg Leg Waltz, Lopey Sailor's Jig, Tiptoe Jig, and Jolly Little Roger have all played in the show several times up to this point, and, at least to me, are all about as iconic as a track such as the Rake Hornpipe. Despite what certain poorly made video essays tell you, SpongeBob never had a musical decline. It's just people conflating some of the old stock production music that were used in the older seasons of the show with certain specific conversation-themed tracks that mostly play in the middle seasons. Do some research! Season 14, or I guess 15 now, is going to have an upcoming play-themed episode, so maybe it's time for this Season 7 oldie to take its final curtain call.
Rodeo, 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 rodeo.
Who needs ears, am I right? Remember earlier when I propped up Season 7's angelic musical playlist on a pedestal? Meet the one exception. I don't want to be mean to Carolyn Lawrence because she's incredibly talented and she can sing when given good lyrics. Episodes like Texas and Chimps Ahoy are proof of this. So it kinda makes me think that Sandy's rodeo song was something that they added at the tail end of production. Would explain the butt-ugly Getty image, cows! As if this season needed another blow to its fragile body that already has a ton of cracks in it, Rodeo Daze comes galloping onto the scene. A contender for the show's worst Sandy episode ever. Well, either this or House Shitting for Sandy. They're both locked in a shit-off. Does this one even count as a Sandy episode? She only appears at the very beginning and the very end, which leaves the entire middle chunk of this episode gasping for air. Seriously, why are we not in Texas? Where's the air? Rodeo Daze might just be the definitive anti-SpongeBob episode. One that avoids being creative and fun in favor of the most wasteland locations I've ever seen in the show, most safe and cookie-cutter plot, and a weird aura of just being so uncreative. You're telling me that you actively skipped out on an episode where SpongeBob and Sandy go to a rodeo together, a setting where ideas for gags and action sequences are practically given to you for free in favor of this literal bullshit! Nah, you know what? This has to be another Nickelodeon executive meddling situation. I refuse to believe that these writers and artists looked at this episode the way it is and started high-fiving each other in excitement. There is just no way. 3 out of 10, number 41 on my ranking. The less said about the cheeks stock image fuckfest that is the climax, the better.
I'm SpongeBob.
Oh no! Sass is in trouble!
Alright, now they're just trying to spite me. As if another formulaic Plankton cosplays as someone else to get what he wants episode wasn't gag-inducing enough. They combined it with the surprise relative episode! Woohoo! Which, if you don't remember, is a TV show plot archetype that makes me want to get closely acquainted with my nearest noose. The ass-clapping butthole stank of this particular stretch of episodes is really starting to get to me, you guys. I don't know how much longer I can go on. Grandma's Secret Recipe. An episode that's already drowning in this cesspool that is most of SpongeBob's worst material ever, still manages to stand out from the crowd in its own day-ruining way. Audience, meet Plot Holes, the episode. Yes, that S being there is intentional. This shit is so lazy and poorly thought out that it borders on parody. Why does Plankton tell the audience his plan and then immediately swerve to doing a completely different plan? When SpongeBob takes who he thinks is his great-grandma to the Krusty Krab to feed her, why does Plankton still decide to go snooping around anyways? How in the wrinkly-skinned fuck does Plankton's grandma get inside Mr. Krabs' safe? All of these questions and more will be taken to Aaron Springer's grave. There's cartoon logic, and then there's just phoning it in. And that's not even getting into this animation error that they ended up having to fix post-release. They didn't just half-ass this, they third-assed it. Were these writers being malnourished or something? Do I need to call the authorities? 3 Grandma's Planktons out of 10. Number 40 on my list. Plankton's grandma was played by Lorraine Newman, a veteran from Saturday Night Live. And she, of all characters, gets a much better sequel episode a few seasons from now, so there's your silver lining. Would you believe me if I said that, even after all of this, all of these episodes in a row that range from mid to outright terrible, with very few good ones, after all the crap I have been consistently complaining about, it still gets worse. Trigger warning. Topics of animal abuse and animal cruelty. If this topic makes you uncomfortable, you're free to skip this segment as you wish. Remember those disclaimers I give at the beginning of every video? The ones that essentially boil down to, don't take my videos too seriously. Usually when I express some kind of extreme emotion, it's just for entertainment purposes and me having fun. Hopefully, for the only time ever, you can completely disregard that disclaimer. This one's personal. The Scent of Money is the animal abuse episode. There's no other way around it. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being funny. The Scent of Money's plot revolves around Mr. Krabs willingly and knowingly causing physical harm to Gary, an animal, for his own personal gain. This is the only episode in the entire franchise that actually makes me physically angry. While rewatching this season for this video, this was the only episode amongst a sea of shit that genuinely made me incredibly upset. Something you should know about me is that I'm not an easy person to offend. I feel as though you can make jokes about most things, and even if they can be in poor taste at times, I never tend to actually take offense to them. Offensive humor can be funny, but animal abuse is a topic I do not take lightly. At all. I don't care if it's just a cartoon. I don't give a fuck if it's intended to arouse humor. They actively went out of their way to make Mr. Krabs one of the main protagonists and someone you should root for. The most hateable he's ever been. They pull back the curtain to show how low this penny-pinching vermin is willing to go. Every single conceivable writing decision here is wrong. Showing that Gary goes through excruciating physical pain when he attracts coins, showing Mr. Krabs completely and purposefully disregard Gary's well-being for his own selfishness.
I could never do that to him.
I could.
Willingly putting Gary through that suffering while enjoying the process. Continuously belittling and verbally berating Gary simply for being exhausted, while also constantly keeping SpongeBob in the dark about what's happening to his own pet, and never owns up to anything or even apologizes. Do I not sound angry enough? Well, frankly, I do not want to waste my energy on this tasteless abomination. SpongeBob may have wised up to Mr. Krabs' thievery, and Mr. Krabs gets his comeuppance at the end, but that doesn't even come close to undoing all of the trauma that Gary was put through. This episode just feels evil. What was their goal here? This is going to sound extremely pretentious, and I apologize, but who did they think would find this even remotely funny? Is this supposed to be slapstick? Slapstick against anthropomorphic cartoon animals and slapstick against pets are two completely different things. The Scent of Money makes me feel gross in ways that no other episode fucking dares to touch. And it's all thanks to you, you despicable capitalist bastard! For as badly as they botched One Course Meal, at least you can make the excuse that Krabs and Plankton are rivals and hate each other. And that, you know, he's not his most valued employee's pet cat. Yeah, thanks guys, I'm sure you won over all the cat lovers with this one. Even in other episodes, where he's greedy and downright antagonistic, at least it's usually done in a fun way that's targeted towards the other characters and not towards an animal who can't object or fight back. Oh, but what about Jellyfish Hunter? Do you have any media literacy at all? Jellyfish Hunter is completely unrealistic in its approach and doesn't have the exploitation of one singular animal be the entire focal point of the episode. And look, I really don't like getting this furious at things. You think this is fun for me? As someone who owns 2 dogs that I love very much and has had to watch them get abused in my own home by my horrible stepdad before we ditched him for good, this episode genuinely disgusts me. 0 out of 10. This is my least favorite episode, if that wasn't clear, by the way. Or, at the very least, tied with Squid Baby, even if I haven't rewatched that one yet. I'll get back to you on that. I've mentioned this before, but it is actually a marvel that they were able to dig Mr. Krabs' character out of his $sign-shaped hole in the ground and make him legitimately likable again. Because I would have thought that there was no coming back from this. People do not give the post-sequel era the credit it deserves, man. Before I move on to the second half of Season 7, I'd like to give one final, decisive fuck you to the Scent of Money. How dare you be part of something that I hold so near and dear? See you in hell, you absolute detestable, vile mass of burnt coin sludge! I'm going to go cuddle my own pets now, if you excuse me. I don't want to do this anymore. Everyone, say hello to SpongeBob's very first miniseries, The Legends of Bikini Bottom. Ugh, I'd rather say goodbye. In funny, wacky Nickelodeon marketing gimmick number I Lost Count, the next 3 half hours consist of episodes that fit under a very loose supernatural or weird theme. Episodes about monsters, curses, natural disasters, etc. When these episodes first aired, they had little wraparound segments with Patchy the Pirate, but these have, unfortunately, never been re-released with any other official release of these episodes. On paper, this could actually be a really cool idea. The show at this point in time could use some extra shakeups to keep things interesting. It's just a shame that they decided to do this in the worst season in the entire show. Guess what word I'd use to describe the monster who came to Bikini Bottom? Go on, you'll never guess it. Ding, ding, ding! If you answered boring, then congratulations! You've been paying attention. This is just the term dicking around in its purest form. Most of the episode consists of Patrick and his new monster friend Rarg, whose cool design was wasted on an episode like this, just standing in one spot. Because of fucking course it would be the middle of nowhere, and not an actually interesting or new location, and giggling at each other like a couple of stoners. Genuinely, this might be one of the least eventful SpongeBob episodes of all time. Rarg roars at people a couple times with his big gaping mouth. Bro chucks his house so hard it turned into CGI. There are some of the worst animation errors I've ever seen in my entire life.
Played it before, huh? Oh, yeah.
And yet I am still bored out of my skull. Stimulating. 2 Rargs out of 10. Number 44 on the ranking. You know that you have drastically failed as an 11-minute piece of entertainment when a 30-second short is better than you. Let's just keep going. I want this particular retrospective to be over already. Oh my god, is that what I think it is? Is this a good episode? It's been 84 years. We have had 11 straight episodes of mostly mid-fiction and poop fiction, so it is such a serious palate cleanser to get an episode that I genuinely enjoy. It's not amazing or anything, it's only a 7 out of 10 and goes to number 19 on the list, but Welcome to the Bikini Bottom Triangle actually has, like, a new location and uses multiple characters and has a high concept and a minor guest star in Jennifer Goodwin and multiple funny jokes.
Reginald.
They even brought back the detail that Patrick has a thing for mermaids. Let's just hope that these ones aren't underage, you pink pedophile. One of the characters who gets to come on this adventure is Pearl. Despite the depress fest that was One Course Meal, she really is one of Season 7's strongest soldiers. Considering SpongeBob's entire setting revolves around the ocean, and considering this miniseries is about urban legends and such, an episode that parodies the Bermuda Triangle is a really inspired and honestly kinda smart idea. This one's pretty straightforward, there aren't too many extra bells and whistles here to discuss, but a good episode in this stretch of the show means more to me right now than you could possibly imagine. Too bad a 7 out of 10 episode is the best one out of the Legends of Bikini Bottom batch. That's so totally a good sign of things to come, and totally not a sign that I've made very poor life choices. Good job on using an unedited, unchanged stock Calibri font on the title card, by the way. That's the level we're at now, I guess. God. Oh, isn't that swell? We're back to mid-fiction. Well. Maybe it's not mid after all. In fact, I think something just peaked, if you know what I mean. This joke has been brought to you by someone who likes big butts and is unable to lie about it. In all seriousness, the Curse of the Hex is essentially just that one person who's late to the party, but it's not like anyone was actually looking forward to them showing up. And when they did show up, they left so little of an impression that when the party's finally over, people just say, wait, who was that? This is basically Luke Vaughn code for Nickelodeon aired this episode months after the other Legends of Bikini Bottom episodes for some asinine reason, yet it's nothing special anyways. For being one of the only episodes in this mini-series that actually fits the theme they're going for, this one has a pretty unique and interesting atmosphere for Season 7 standards. The cold open taking place during a dark, cloudy, stormy evening gives this episode some teeth and could have made this whole thing stand out. Too bad it's only for, like, the first third of the episode. The entire middle portion here is just your typical, uninteresting Season 7 Krusty Krab antics, and then the final act brings it back around and is admittedly kinda fun.
Take this!
Madam Hagfish also has a really cool and creepy design that's fitting for this miniseries, but the titular curse she places on the Krusty Krab, while being a kind of amusing punchline on first viewing, is kinda lame looking back. It's like they were afraid to go all in with this premise. So, yeah, a huge mixed bag of an episode we got here. 5 out of 10, cursing its way to number 29 on my ranking. I will say though, incredible title card. One of the best looking ones in the pre-HD seasons. Like, they did not have to cook this much. Ooh, I have just been dying to rip into this toilet paper! As if Season 7 hasn't been draining away my patience already, this insult to art as we know it comes bumbling along. Let's see. I've already come at a lot of these terrible episodes from every angle I can think of. Getting unreasonably and cartoonishly angry, trying to be fair and going full-on analytical, legitimately getting the most serious I will ever get for this retrospective. What else is there left to do? How about the approach I simply like to call the fuck it attitude? I'm just gonna wing it this time and type whatever comes to my brain first. That's clearly what the writers did when writing this dreck. The main drain is one of the worst written things I have ever seen in anything, ever! Which I am aware is a very bold statement. Not the worst episode ever, or even in my bottom 10, but this is the type of script that makes me second guess the writers' abilities to do their jobs. The main thing that they get paid to do? How do you manage to write a story with so many holes in it? Which cunt from quality control looked at this and approved this? How is this an episode that actually exists from the biggest kids cartoon of all time? What the fuck is happening? Looking at a positive for 5 seconds, because if I don't, I think my heart will explode. The premise slash idea slash concept is legitimately really creative. A mystical urban legend of a hefty drain plug that sleeps in the center of the ocean, which if pulled, could wipe out all sea life on the planet. That's such a clever way to take advantage of SpongeBob's setting. Whoever brainstormed that idea did an excellent job. However, I guess during production, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. They plugged up any potential this story had and flushed it all away. How were Krabs and Plankton the little chodes that pulled the plug in the first place, if they're still alive? How is the entire ocean still around if this plug was seemingly pulled decades ago? Why is the plug still there if it was pulled decades ago? Why is this entire episode just SpongeBob and Patrick dicking around and bickering in the same 3 locations?
3?
And Old Man Jenkins' house that every Season 7 episode has! Add him to the counter, editor! Why is there absolutely zero sense of adventure in what should be one of their most adventurous? Why is there a plot twist at the end where the whole thing was a bedtime story? What does this add? I'm going to cry! Was this episode written by aliens or something? God! I am losing my fucking shit! Somebody make it end! 2 out of 10, number 45 on my list. Get this out of my goddamn face! Now! I don't know where SpongeBob and Patrick are in this episode. I guess they needed a break from all of this torture. So instead, we got these two. Sponge Joe Bob and Daryl. That's as hillbilly as you can get. Somewhat recently becoming a southerner myself, remember, I live in Tennessee, Trenchbillies should resonate with me more than ever now. I'm amongst friends. I love drinking gallons of root beer and fiddling with the old banjo and getting into wrestling matches and marrying my cousins. For the purposes of clarity, this is a joke. Incest is a big no-no. Yuck! I dadgum love these stereotypes. Yeehaw! Or at least that's what you'd expect me to say, right? Sorry, no. Trenchbillies is big dumb. And big gross. And big dull. I mean, hey, at the very least, Sponge Joe Bob and Daryl are in a different location and surrounded by new characters. But that also begs the question of, how does this even fit into the theme of this mini-series? Ah, yes. The mystical urban legends of yore, as old as time itself. Giant monsters, powerful curses, world-ending artifacts, and southern people. I'm not trying to say this type of humor can never be funny, but I'm also not saying it can never be funny either. This one flops due to the very simple reason of just not having enough memorable jokes, despite the few hits it does have. 4 out of 10, number 33 on the ranking. The highlight has gotta be when Daryl gets into a musical duel with this other hillbilly, and he struggles so hard that he explodes. And he never comes back! Daryl's face here is one of someone who's just committed their first murder and liked it. Live Sponge-Cano reaction. Oh, thank the religious figure of your choosing above that the final episode in this little experiment is actually kind of good. Again, not great. I cannot stress that enough. This episode is only above average and enjoyable, but really nothing more than that. So sounds like a 7 out of 10 to me. Sizzling to number 20 on the list. And I'm coming in hot. Finally getting to talk about another Season 7 jam, we have Attitude of Gratitude. A simple little tune that isn't trying to melt your face off or anything, but it's super cute and is one of those songs from the show that expertly demonstrates SpongeBob's personality. He's so happy-go-lucky all the time because he's such a simple guy who's not hard to please. He's just thankful for all the little things in his life. We really don't deserve him. And who could forget the most memorable mug in this whole season? My man, Forgettable. That's not actually his name, of course. In fact, I'm pretty sure this character is never once given an official name, but that just inspired some friends and I to name him Forgettable. One inside joke later, and my enjoyment of this dolphin douchebag has been artificially inflated via old friend group chicanery. But even outside of shitpost reasons, having an episode examining Squidward's grouchy personality under a microscope and forcing him to acknowledge the things he's thankful for is an idea that I like a lot. He's already such a hothead, so I'm sure throwing him into a volcano will feel like a spa day for him. Combining those qualities with more inventive uses of the show's setting, underwater volcanoes are a real thing that exist, and Sponge-Cano manages to find a way to make me feel the really warm and kind of fuzzies. The episode's original outline is actually fully public on the SpongeBob wiki, and this original version includes seemingly faster pacing, more overall jokes, and the inclusion of characters like Sandy and even Old Man Jenkins. Proof that things could have always been better, and potentially confirming my theory that Nickelodeon should have kept an arm's distance from the crew. Hoping the next miniseries is better, let's let our next editor erupt into that editor's chair. Ah yes, finally, peak season 7. Call me that one guy from ASDF movie because I love trains. I may not have been a Thomas the Tank Engine kid, or even a Thomas the Tank Engine adult. I can't believe I have to specify that. But that doesn't stop the child at heart inside of me from getting all giddy over this really fun, even beautiful form of transportation. When I was a kiddie, me and my mom would always take the train from Oregon to California to visit families such as my dad and my grandma. So consider the connection nostalgic as well. Usually with most season favorites of mine, there's usually some other reason they're at the tippy top other than just being funny. I loved SB129 because of its otherworldliness and darker tone. I loved Christmas Who and Patrick Smartpants for their heartfelt emotional storytelling. I loved Krabs a la Mode for the extremely icy visuals and winter atmosphere. And I loved Sandcastles in the Sand for its creative use of sand and badass action sequences. The only exception to this is I had an accident from season 3 and the Great Patty Caper. 10 out of 10, number 1. That animation is like witnessing a choir of angels in a season like this. The Great Patty Caper. Ridiculously similar name to a season 6 episode notwithstanding, probably has the most simple and blunt reasoning ever for me to call an episode my favorite. I take so much delight in the setting, and this is, by a caboose-sized margin, the funniest and wittiest episode in all of season 7. All aboard the Spongy Express, and you're greeted to a diner car buffet filled with gut-busting gags. Patrick thinking SpongeBob is killing himself, the fact that the train tracks lead directly into an old folks' home, Krabs bashing his head against the wall after realizing his mistake, SpongeBob and Patrick accidentally catching a gaggle of completely unrelated criminals, and my personal favorite, all of the well-meaning screwball ways Patrick tries to stop the out-of-control train.
I'm a hero!
Which includes something as simple as a stop sign, but it makes me choo-choo with laughter every time. Easily season 7's greatest reaction image. This special didn't have to rely on star power or some big fancy clickbait commercial to get people's attention. It's just a SpongeBob and Patrick versus Plankton story. On a train. Yay! This season may have been practically laying the tracks while the train was moving, but that didn't stop Mystery with a Twistery, the special's original title by the way, from powering full steam ahead anyways. We are now leaving the station of Season 7's worst stretch of episodes into arguably its best stretch of episodes. Relatively speaking, of course. Thank fuck! I love being positive on things. More people should give it a try. Even if Season 7 is the show's worst, I'm glad it exists. Because of funny, exciting episodes like this, there is a light at the end of that train tunnel. You just gotta run towards it. Sometimes you really just gotta fully embrace a joke that's thrown your way. So, I shall. Ahem. Oh, Midward! Hello, Midward. Thanks for showing up on such short notice, but I need your help. I found it. The ultimate Midward episode. In all of SpongeBob. Probably the singular episode that I feel the most nothing towards. Outside of this being the episode with the Squidward looking through his window meme, as well as having like, maybe one kind of funny interaction between the trio.
But you buried my house!
No need to thank us.
Thank you!
You're welcome.
That sinking feeling is the episode that has practically zero good or bad qualities that are pulling me in either direction. When watching this, I'm not having a good time or smiling, but I'm not actively bored or infuriated either. I have a completely blank, straight, non-expression on my face the entire time. This episode is so comically mid that it might as well be stuck in its own limbo purgatory. Disregarding Conch Street, the underground setting isn't even something that's unique to this episode. Chum Caverns did it first and did it better. And if I'm being really pedantic, Spongehenge did it too. If I want a SpongeBob and Patrick annoying Squidward episode, there are literally dozens of other better options to choose from. God, this is such a useless episode that only exists to fill an episode slot. Talk about caving in under the pressure. 5 out of 10, number 31 in Midward's heart. This is your ultimate shining moment, Midward. Bask in it. Wait, what do you mean that sinking feeling was nominated for an Emmy?
I bet I could chop anything!
Okay, that's good. Well, I guess by Season 7 standards, this isn't the worst Patrick episode in the world. The bar really is that low in this season. Karate Star is the first in a series of 3 about X-character learns karate episodes. Would you believe me if I told you that this one isn't even the worst of the 3? Everything in Karate Star just feels so slapdash. Like they had the base premise they wanted to work with, but no sense of direction and no idea what to actually do with the story. Like they had all of the ideas for the story beats, but didn't know how to get to them in any natural way. Why does SpongeBob initially give up on teaching Patrick karate after only 2 attempts? Well, because we needed a way for Patrick to discover that he's good at chopping. Why does Patrick's hand suddenly go rogue and start chopping stuff for no reason? Well, because we gotta have some kind of conflict. Why is there an attempt at an emotional resolution at the end, despite the episode not building up to it at all? You got me there. Starting to realize that the slapstick humor around this point of the show is really hit or miss, because this is just so bare bones. 8 chopped in half out of 10. Number 32 on my ranking. Where the F is Sandy, by the way? Her presence could have added an interesting wrinkle into this story that really needed some extra pizzazz. Call me a wooden chopping plank, because I'm bored. wants to see the greatest time card ever conceived by man. Biggest kids cartoon on the planet, everybody. The text has no outline or drop shadow. This looks like the old, outdated Krabby Patty font that you can find on the internet. The S is just far away enough from the other letters to bother me. And most appalling of all, the text isn't even centered. I've seen hermit crabs give more of a damn about their craft. Either way, Buried in Time is about the Krusty Krab opening up its own time capsule, with SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward eventually getting trapped inside of the oversized Pringles can. Meanwhile, Plankton sees the Krabby Patty secret formula being tossed inside the time capsule and tries to snatch it for himself. Ignoring how this might be the most forced and shoehorned Plankton appearance possibly ever, this one's practically just a diet version of Wishing You Well. Though I guess being a diet version of something spectacular still means that you're kinda decent, I guess. There's some knee slappers to be had here. Plate Guy, my beloved. And scenes such as the trio envisioning their ideal futures gets a thumbs up from me. And this should have been what the entire episode was about! And hey, they were right. Everything is indeed chrome in the future, in more ways than one. 7 out of 10, buried at number 23 on my list. The time capsule episode from Unikitty is basically everything I wanted out of this premise and more, so just go watch that one instead. Hey fellas, look, it's Squidward. Somebody get the bongo drums ready, because we've got a peak SpongeBob song incoming. Season 7 may be where dreams go to die, but I will never stop gassing up its playlist of incredible songs. If I may be so bold, Squidward's Tiki Land from Enchanted Tiki Dreams is my favorite musical number in all of SpongeBob SquarePants. I love it more than the Fun song, Underwater Sun, and even Gary Come Home. That might sound a little conspicuous coming from me, as I tend to gravitate towards the more bombastic and high-energy compositions, but this Tiki tune just hits me in all of the right ways and embodies to me what SpongeBob is all about. It makes me envision sitting on a beachside with a cool, refreshing drink in hand. Sunglasses cover my eyes as I stare off into the orange-tinted sunset. The sound of ocean waves cascading over the sand as I think to myself, this is heaven. And really, isn't that the vibe that SpongeBob SquarePants has always been trying to go for? The tropical vacation atmosphere of Hawaii, the marvel and wonder of undersea life, meshed together with the craziness and surrealness that can only be achieved by animation. This song is perfect, and I'd go as far to say that it makes me wish that there was more tiki-themed imagery in the show, outside of Squidward's house being a giant tiki head. I guess the Crash Bandicoot franchise could scratch that itch for me anyways. Oh yeah! And the episode that Squidward's Tiki Land happens to be Siamese twins with is also great. It does take a while to get going, but once it gets going, it becomes one of the most relaxing, easygoing watches in this entire season. Seeing SpongeBob and Patrick trying their hardest to do something nice for Squidward is just... it's just nice. I don't even mean that in the relation to the tired old Squidward torture arguments either. Just seeing these characters actually caring about each other and enjoying each other's company is nothing short of pleasant. A bit of punching up in the pacing department, and this could have been one of my favorite episodes ever. 8 out of 10, number 14 on the ranking. Enchanted Tiki Dreams whisks me away every time I watch it, and it might be the closest a SquarePants adventure has ever gotten to total paradise. I'll drink to that. Hit it, boys!
Squidward's Tiki Land.
Oh hey, here's a good one. Or should I say a fucking good one? A damn fucking good one. What? It's on brand for the episode I'm talking about. Well, this was a long time coming. After many an episode where SpongeBob is just essentially the universe's kitchen-flavored doormat, it's about time he learned to grow a spine and stand up for himself. Or, more accurately, he just has this green hairy parasite do it for him. It even comes complete with a Tom Kenny who sounds like he has a throat infection. What more could you ask for?
I wouldn't hang out with you for all the money in Krabs' mattress.
This little gremlin with a mouth dirtier than a public bathroom is single-handedly responsible for making the Abrasive Side Season 7's most iconic episode. And for good reason. There's definitely a novelty to watching the nice guy finally snap and just go off at all of his friends. The whole episode is structured in a really straightforward but really successful way. SpongeBob and his Abrasive Side go up to a character, say some variant of, "Fuck you! You fucking dick!" and move on to the next person. And it is infinitely entertaining. Part of me wishes that it was SpongeBob himself who was telling all of these people off instead of what is essentially a blood-sucking leech controlling him. But at the same time, I guess it lets SpongeBob kind of confront the worst side of himself. Physically and literally. I wish that aspect of the episode was focused on more, but I suppose Chef Bob from Season 11 exists for a reason. And I mean, come on, this is clever as hell. His Abrasive Side is the rough green half of an actual kitchen sponge. Like in real life. And it has a personality as warm and inviting as a butcher's freezer. No wonder this is Season 7's most recognizable episode. That's some of the most creative storytelling in this entire season. Though it's kinda weird that SpongeBob ends up learning the wrong lesson at the end. Yeah, little dude, you should continue to be submissive and let people walk all over you. Never change and never stand up for yourself. Stop letting this bitch-ass squirrel explain the morals of episodes. She's really, really bad at it. The Abrasive Side isn't one of my absolute favorites of Season 7, but I can easily understand why it would be somebody else's. And oh my god, Grandma SquarePants actually appears in a good episode for once. Rejoice!
8 out of fucking 10. Number 13 on the bitch-ass list or whatever. Yeah, just move on to the next segment already. There's nothing else to see here, you nosy peeping toms. Scram!
So just listen again to the musical doodle. With the exception of the Great Patty Caper, Earworm wipes the floor with every single Season 7 episode. It's actually comical how massive the gap in quality is. You want a Luke's wacky fact? Squidward's Tiki Land may be my favorite song in Season 7, and by extension the entire show, but Musical Doodle is the most iconic. Don't even try to fight me on this. You know it to be true. I bet you have the song running laps around your brain right now, don't ya? I think most people just get the relatability that inherently comes with getting a really good song stuck in your head, and Earworm might be my favorite execution of this concept I have ever seen in any show. This episode completely embraces both halves of this little predicament. Both the fun and whimsy of being obsessed with your favorite song to the point where you just sing it instinctually, and the record-scratching insanity that rears its head when the song just won't leave you alone! The song feels like it's trapping your mind in a cage made out of music notes as you try to run away to literally any other song, only to realize you're running round and round on that same old record player. Basically, if Squidward's Tiki Land is a sophisticated ballad that deeply touches you emotionally, then Musical Doodle is just musical crack! Get out of my head! Those bastards in the writer's room took it a step further, though, because they decided to write this song with the conductor's baton. How diabolical is it that Musical Doodle is so good at its job that, as well as infecting SpongeBob's every action, it obliterates the fourth wall and makes the viewer its bitch! Have any of you even heard the full version of this song? There are chunks of this tune that are never actually played in the full episode, and the lyrics are...
At least you're safe from that infernal racket. Or are you? You will never leave.
Deliciously dark. The main reason I love Earworm so much is because of how much of a powerful stranglehold the melody within has on my soul, but it helps that the episode itself is also peak fiction. It's legitimately well written, has several hilarious moments, the stakes are appropriately high, multiple characters get involved, and it's about time we got another episode that's been injected with an unhealthy dose of madness that only this show can pull off. Oh, and of course, SpongeBob's melodic junk food is personified as a literal worm that lives inside of his ears. God, I love animation. 10 records out of 10. Topping the charts at number 2. Casey Alexander, Zeus Service, and Derek Iverson were insistent on blowing the roof off of everyone's heads, and they succeeded with flying colors. Need proof? Just look at all of the straitjackets they left in their wake. Also, I've been listening to this infernal racket on loop while writing this segment. How is this the same writing team that's written stupid, boring shit this season like Summer Job, Karate Star, and The Wreck of the Mauna Loa? Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest 11-minute episode of SpongeBob's 7th season. Maybe I should move on to the next segment before this little number makes me lose my mind. Yeah. That's what I'll do. Do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do. Musical doodle! My name is Luke. Luke, not Vaughn. Oh boy. Anyways, do kids even play hide-and-seek anymore? I feel like by today's standards, and also because the advancement of technology, it's a kid's game that's seen as outdated now. SpongeBob and Patrick don't seem to think so. In a way, I've been playing my own little version of hide-and-seek this whole video. All of the good episodes in Season 7 have been hiding from me, and it's been my duty to seek them out. Looks like I found one. Aaron Springer's episodes in this particular retrospective have been incredibly hit or miss. And even when I do like some of his episodes, such as Growth Spout or SpongeBob's Last Stand, I could tell that something about them was being restrained. Like Aaron Springer's writing utensil of choice was being held on a leash made out of executive metal. I guess that utensil eventually grew some teeth because he has finally broken free of that control. Simply put, Hide and Then What Happens is the ultimate Season 7 Aaron Springer episode. Something that calls back to his slow, awkward, and even stupid sense of humor that ruled over his Season 6 work. And in case you needed a reminder, this is the type of calculated, extremely niche humor that I just eat up. SpongeBob teaching Patrick how to play hide-and-seek might sound like a simple premise, but the further the game goes on, the more high stakes and ridiculous it gets. It's an escalation that's extremely entertaining to watch, like seeing all of Aaron Springer's pent-up energy bubble up to the surface, and then unleashing all of it at once. It's been such a long time since I've seen an episode have such an exponential growth in its plot. Hide and Then What Happens starts slow and meandering, which in this case isn't a bad thing at all, and then quickly just goes completely off the rails. I really, really love this one. Very high 9 out of 10, and it managed to seek out a number 5 spot on my list. I can't believe a Patrick episode managed to sneak its way into my top 5. Highlights here include the Patrick Not Star scene because of course. The Mrs. Puff scene is just a funnier version of the doorbell gag from Pet or Pests. And I also adore the scene with Squidward. Gives me Boating Buddies vibes in the best way.
Squidward?
What?
I'm playing hide and seek with Patrick, and I was wondering if I can search for him in your house.
No!
Okay, see ya, bye.
Anyone else notice that whenever someone in Bikini Bottom has groceries, it's always like the same 3 things of milk, bread, and carrots? Or some combination of the 3? Generic Bikini Bottom groceries is my favorite SpongeBob SquarePants character.
Tomorrow is Bring Your Pet to Work Day.
I don't need a special day for that. Squidward's here every day. Nice. Real nice!
Why did this season love using Gary so much? This is like the 4th time. In the finale of what I like to call Season 7's Plankton's cosplay trilogy, the Micro Bastard has reached a new low and is impersonating domesticated animals now. Thankfully, Shellback Shenanigans is the best out of the 3, though that's not really saying much. Speaking of not saying much, I feel like I've exhausted every single talking point when it comes to this flavor of microscopic organism. Plankton disguises himself as Gary to trick SpongeBob into giving him the secret formula. But of course, there's a snag along the way, and he gets more and more frustrated as the episode goes on. Standard stuff. But I'll take this over Grandma's hideous cooking from earlier. The writing is somewhat clever and somewhat interesting, but if you pardon the pun, this is still very formulaic. SpongeBob thinking that quote-unquote Gary has a deadly disease that turns his skin green and makes him talk is at least an attempt to diverge from the expected, but they end up just falling back on the same old tropes anyways. 6 out of 10, number 26 on the ranking. It's aight, but it's still an imitation of an imitation, if you know what I mean. They should have just only made this one and left Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy and Grandma's Secret Recipe to rot. We'll be getting a better Plankton and Gary episode a couple seasons from now anyways. Final editor for the video, you're up. I bet you're expecting me to say something along the lines of, well, it's no masterpiece, but it's still pretty alright. Yes, quite. And you would be completely correct in that assessment. I like the idea of Squidward bringing his art skills to the Krusty Krab.
Word.
It's something we've never really seen before, even though it's done better in Season 10, but beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. Why does every single character in this show, without fail, have a huge dumpy? And why do we have to look at Mr. Krabs's for so long? I guess it's true what they say about artists. They're all horny.
I don't have a mouth in my stomach!
To me, the masterpiece really only stands out because of my man, the Sea Chicken! He doesn't even have, like, any underwater-related features at all. He's just a regular anthropomorphic chicken that happens to be underwater. And that's it, really. Even when a Season 7 episode is just okay, there's still much less interessante to talk about than the okay episodes from other seasons. 6 out of 10, number 28 on the list. Season 7 is at its most alluring to discuss when an episode falls on either side of the extreme. So because this season is so middling most of the time, I can't make a spectacle out of the ones that are actually middle of the road. Sorry to all the fans of the masterpiece out there. I got nothing. They say Among Us in this one.
Someone among us.
Tee-hee, the Among Us. If there's anything you need to know about me, it's that I am a sucker for monster movies. Series such as King Kong, Jurassic Park, Jaws, and the king of the monsters himself, Godzilla, are home to some of my favorite movies of all time. Essentially just the dopamine rush that boils down to, haha, watching cool monsters destroy stuff make brain go brrr. So a whole SpongeBob episode dedicated to being a parody / love letter of that fugly era of monster movies where executives thought that effects like this were the coolest thing since sliced underwear is a pretty quick way to win the key to my heart. So many shots here try to replicate the style of fake 3D movies, and this does two things: making the situation the characters are in feel more dire, and making another episode in this season stand out visually in some neat way. And then there's this shot! I think these two might be my sleep paralysis demons. This frame looks like something straight out of a creepypasta, and I don't want to look at it anymore. Get it away. A semi-consistent thing I've complained about in Season 7 is that there are certain episodes that I feel like have no stakes whatsoever, even if the situation should call for it. Back to the Past and the monster who came to Bikini Bottom suffer the worst of this. Whelk Attack, of course, curb stomps its competition. The characters are in a very desperate situation and take it seriously because of that. You don't usually see these characters placed in world-ending scenarios, so that's another plus. It's exciting to see these sea whelks gobbling people up like hungry hippos at an all-you-can-eat buffet, and the reveal that their bitch mother is 100 stories high is a classic monster movie trope. This is one of the most thrilling SpongeBob watches I've had in a while, and that alone makes this one of Season 7's best. Minor nitpick, but I wish this episode took place at night, or at the very least had a more unique atmosphere, but that's my only criticism. Why 9 out of 10? Number 4 on my ranking. This is the episode with SpongeBob music Lionheart, after all. What, you've never heard of SpongeBob music Lionheart before? Queso, do your thing.
Kinda built like SpongeBob music Lionheart.
Oh hey, what the hell? Is that the magic shop from Fun? If you like the idea of an episode taking up its entire first half to set up its conflict, and then dedicating its entire second half to SpongeBob crying and throwing himself a pity party, then You Don't Know Sponge is just the episode for you. I wasn't kidding about that pacing, by the way. You Don't Know Sponge has the worst pacing out of any SpongeBob episode I have ever seen. So much so that there are basically only 2 acts. The first act, where SpongeBob and Patrick are in generic location number 1, with Patrick stupidly and incorrectly guessing SpongeBob's best friend trivia. And the second act, where SpongeBob walks around generic location number 2 and sobs loudly until the artificial forced plot resolution happens. If making this retrospective has taught me anything, it's that the pacing might actually be my biggest issue with this era of the show. A near countless amount of episodes would be drastically improved if things just moved along faster. 11 minutes really isn't as much time as you think it is. The first half doesn't work because, ignoring how they had to dumb Patrick down to the dumbest he's ever been to make this story work.
Okay, let's try an easy one. Is your best friend a boy or a girl?
Ooh. Rugged biceps, yet delicate eyelashes. Pass!
Every single punchline related to this quiz can be seen coming from miles away. Learning that SpongeBob and Patrick's favorite colors are beige and aquamarine respectively was kinda neat actually, but just do something! Go somewhere! Damn it, this is getting annoying! I sure hope they don't botch up a message about friendship in a really infuriating and downright harmful way. See, it's funny because it's a and then the opposite happens joke. Oh, SpongeBob, you're actually wrong for being upset that your friend isn't treating you well. You're just acting like a spoiled baby. Now shut the fuck up and apologize to Patrick. Amazing words of wisdom from Sandra Cheekerson. Shouldn't SpongeBob be justified in standing up for himself in this situation? Patrick getting him one present is nice and all, but that doesn't erase the damage he did. It's so frustrating too, because they've gotten these types of messages right in the past. I am going to kill myself all over you! 3 out of 10, I'm casting you down to the number 42 spot in the fiery pits of hell! Help! Help! I'm being held here against my will!
Hiya! Nice facilities. Great water pressure.
Remember when I said that every Glove World episode in the show is good? Remember when I said that every Pearl episode in the show is good? Looks like we got a double whammy on our gloves. I hope you're not sick of all the Five Nights at Freddy's jokes though, because the parallels here are stronger than they've ever been. Shipping SpongeBob with a 16-year-old aside, gross. Tunnel of Glove is fascinating to me because it's one of the few Season 7 episodes that basically has 0 of the trappings that episodes in this season usually have. It takes place in a unique location. Hell, it's a unique location within the unique location. All of the characters are written well here too, including Patrick, surprisingly enough. And I'm such a hypocrite because the exact same style of writing that made me loathe him in Back to the Past just slays me here. I think the difference is that in Back to the Past, all of Patrick's actions are completely self-serving, and as a result made the story really annoying to follow. While here, even though Patrick is making things worse, he's trying his best and legitimately wants to help. Oh yeah, and here's the biggest reason this one feels like it doesn't fit in. It's actually entertaining. Things happen. There is humor. The plot escalates in a fun way. SpongeBob and Pearl have a good character dynamic. Pearl is just a teenage girl Squidward here.
I'm almost 12 and a half.
And I honestly love that. For being the second love-themed episode of the season, it's actually my favorite despite featuring the least amount of romance. 8 out of 10, 11th in line for the Tunnel of Glove. Extra points for being the first Pearl episode where Mr. Krabs doesn't appear. I guess it's true what they say. The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night.
One wiener later.
This wiener tastes just like a wiener. Maybe we can taste many wieners.
I'm not pressed.
Now I'm pressed.
Ouija, 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 Ouija.
What an interesting shape.
Tastes just like a wiener, but it's shaped like a wiener.
Hey, I like wieners.
Holy shit!
It's the Swim Man. He's cooking hot stoves on the hot dog stove.
Something that would make Mr. Krabs' whole wiener glow right up in his face.
God, I am so immature sometimes. But hey, gotta own it. This segment's either gonna make you choke with laughter or die from cringe depending on your humor. Krusty Dogs is the funny haha wiener episode. They say the word wiener a lot. And that definitely makes mine very happy, if you know what I mean.
Jacking off.
Truthfully, I actually like this one a lot. It's every middle school boy's dream come true. This isn't the first or last time an episode focuses on Krabby Patties being replaced by some random other food, but what makes this one stand out is its writing and humor. Gee, I wonder which cock was involved with the writing. SpongeBob's escapades in trying to do something different and cook hot dogs on the stove results in a 12-inch course of laughs. And every character here is written well too. SpongeBob rebelling against Mr. Krabs' newfound Willy obsession is a nice change of pace. Squidward here is some of the most deadpan he's ever been. And they do a particularly good job at writing Mr. Krabs to be just a simple businessman and not an agent of Satan. Despite this being yet another Krusty Krab romp, it really is throbbing with great material. Want to know something else that's throbbing with great material? Okay, I'll stop. Just kidding, no I won't. If Buried in Time has the worst time card in SpongeBob history, then Krusty Dogs has the best one. Like, just look at this. The douchebag's actually committed to making it look nice, on top of it having an award-winning caption. Girl, this one is just simple but effective, as any good schlong should be. 9 glizzies out of 10. Number 9 on my list. My bisexual ass likes hot dogs. What can I say? Upon showing this script to one of my friends/editors, he said it was the gayest script I have ever written, and that's what I was going for.
Here's your footloose, sir.
Thanks. 12 inches of deliciousness.
What?
I am actively fighting my own urge to stop writing this script right now and do literally anything else. You all have no clue how fucking draining this is for me, and how thankful I am that you've stuck with me through it all, despite my constant complaining. The Wreck of the Mauna Loa is about SpongeBob and Patrick finding an abandoned wrecked pirate ship called the Mauna Loa, and making it their secret hideout. But when Mr. Krabs finds out about it, he crashes the scene and turns it into an amusement park attraction. So instead of getting a swashbuckling pirate adventure in similar vein to Arg, we get more of Mr. Krabs being cheap in a season that already has many episodes where he's cheap as the focus. This has no reason to exist. It's just characters standing around and spitting plot functionality lines at each other. I try to give as much insight as I can into every single episode I review, but oh my god, I just don't care. 4 out of 10, number 37 on the ranking. I could see this appealing to someone's nostalgia about finding a secret location in nature as a kid and making a little self-made hideout out of it, but to me, I don't get anything from this one that I can't get from other, better episodes. What a shipwreck. Wanna see my reaction to New Fish in Town? Wanna see my reaction to New Fish in Town again? That's the only slice of humor I like from this episode, so I'm gonna milk it for all it's worth. I swear to God, Season 7 is trying to be as boring as possible on purpose. It's like there's some sort of mindless children's TV entertainment quotient that they're trying to fill. And Howard is basically the personification of that. An episode about a new neighbor moving into Conscience Street is like such a no-brainer to me. I always found it a little strange that the main stretch of road in this show only has 3 places of residence. So adding a 4th face here could shake up the character dynamics for an episode. Too bad this episode's script was seemingly written on autopilot. Howard is such a nothing character. When you go out of your way to write a character who's supposed to be as boring as possible, you're supposed to write them to be as boring as possible to the other characters, not boring to the audience. And if you want proof, Squidward is right there. Despite him being a stuffy cunt with a temper as huge as a nuclear bomb, Squidward works as a character because he's just as much of a manic screwball as most of the other characters. He feels like he fits into this wacky little world, despite him not wanting to fit in. What kills me is that they could have steered this episode in so many fun, delightful directions. Squidward and Howard could team up to put a stop to SpongeBob and Patrick's hijinks in a match of nosy neighbors versus noisy neighbors. Maybe Squidward could have his own Squidward to deal with. Like, Howard could be so up his own ass that Squidward has to be the one to teach him to loosen up and have some fun. Maybe Howard could be so bothersome to the entire neighborhood that all three of the main characters team up and conspire to get rid of him. Do you see how easy this is? I'm just coming up with these completely off the cuff, yet they deliberately chose to go with the most safe, easy, predictable option they possibly could of Squidward trying to prevent Howard from finding out about SpongeBob and Patrick's existence. Why are you trying to stifle these character dynamics? Doesn't help that most of the jokes here are absolute misfires. 2 out of 10. Number 43 on the list. And if you thought that was horse shit...
And this brand new bottle of bubbles?
Oh, that's actually the worst animated thing in all of SpongeBob. Squidward? More like Rizzward, am I right? This is just the Squidward Gets Bitches episode after all. Out of the thousands upon thousands of words in the English language, if I had to pick only one that would accurately describe my opinion on SpongeBob Season 7 episode Love That Squid, it would be charming. Love That Squid has got charm oozing out of every single pore. Every single character interaction, every single line of dialogue, every single visual gag, and every single writing decision here feels like they came from a place of earnestness and care, which, ironically, comes from Season 7 of all places. Not saying that no episodes in this season are like that, because that's simply not true at all. I still like half of these episodes, keep in mind. But this one in particular just hits different for me. Seeing Squidward actually catch a break for once and fall in love, seeing SpongeBob vouch for him and being the best wingman you could possibly ask for, seeing SpongeBob and Squidward go on their practice date, and seeing new character Squilvia actually fall for Squidward at the end, it's all just so cute. This is definitely the closest we'll ever see this franchise get to SpongeBob dating another character, might I add. So of course it had to be Squidward of all people. Sure, seeing SpongeBob, who is usually a very intentionally romantically stunted character, giving out love advice like it's nobody's business is admittedly a little out of character for him. But I don't know, that kind of adds to the charm for me. Though charm can only take you so far, which is why this isn't one of my favorites of the season. The practice date scenes are adorable, but I really would have liked to see Squidward and Squilvia actually go on their date, instead of our regular duo bumming around 2 out of the 3 generic locations we're used to. Still, it's an 8 out of 10 and is number 17 on my ranking. Did you know that according to Vincent Waller from his now deleted Twitter account, Squilvia is one of the only SpongeBob characters ever who has canonically died off screen? According to Vincent, it was because she got eaten by a whale. Neptune giveth and Neptune taketh away. Okay, so as if I didn't have to already review episodes like A Pal for Gary, Yours, Mine, and Mine, The Monster Who Came to Bikini Bottom, Trench Billies, You Don't Know Sponge, Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy, New Fish in Town, Back to the Past, The Scent of Money, Here Comes Big Sister! Sam. Fuck it! I'm done! I quit! I give up! What do you want me to say about Big Sister Sam? That it sucks? Of course it sucks! What are you, stupid? Do you have diarrhea in your ears? Ooh! Ooh, Big Sister Sam! Oh, my favorite SpongeBob episode! Oh, I love doing this! Oh, this totally isn't torture! Oh my god! I don't even care anymore. I don't care. Who's editing this segment? Fucking Matt? Matt's here for 7 second season? Do whatever. I don't care. Shit post. Fucking add random sound effects. Random fucking stock images. Random clothes on the character. I don't care. It's Big Sister Sam. Nobody likes Big Sister Sam. How could the writers pitch this in the writer's room? In the writer's room, right? You have all the team of writers, every single writer who's ever worked on the show in this season, in the writer's room. They're pitching the idea, and they're like, yes, this is what we want. We want SpongeBob and Patrick standing in one spot. Oh yeah, Squidward's there too, fucking whatever. Oh, ooh, Con Street. Ooh, add it to the counter, Matt. Oh, because you don't already have enough fucking things for your counter. Add it to the counter, dude. Oh my god. SpongeBob and Patrick and Squidward and this thing just standing around in one spot, and arguing. That's it! That's all this is! Do you think the writers in the writer's room, when the storyboards were being pitched for this episode, do you think that they were laughing and cheering and having a gay old time? Or do you think that they were just sitting there, stone-faced, thinking in their heads, damn, this is my life now, producing mediocre entertainment for a kid's network? What do you want me to say about Sam? What do you want me to say about Sam? What do you want me to say? That she's a bulldozer with a face? Yeah, cause she is! She's a bulldozer with a face! Who doesn't do anything! She's just bigger, stupider Patrick! Bigger, stupider Patrick! Bigger, stupider Patrick!
What the fuck's going on, man? I'm at the Costco, and there's this kid tweaking the fuck out, knocking all the TVs down. And I'm not trying to be racist, but he's doing it. He's making all these fucking monkey noises and screaming about how he's King Kong. Security, get the fuck up there! Stop this kid! He's out of control! Oh, there goes another one! Another TV destroyed by the mighty King Kong! King Kong, no! Oh, shit! Well, that one's fucking broken.
How do you expect me to review this season if you don't give me anything to work with? Would it be a stretch to call this the laziest SpongeBob episode of all time? Because it is the laziest SpongeBob episode of all time. It just is. It is. It is characters standing in one spot and arguing. That is it. That is it. People always point the finger and be like, oh no, a Doodle Dimension. At least Doodle Dimension tries to be creative, and at least it has good storyboarding and facial expressions and character acting and all of the other strengths that just inherently come with the post-sequel era, which I would much rather be goddamn watching, by the way. So yeah, Big Sister Sam is just the laziest episode in the entire show. Just like full stop. Like, not exaggerating. Not exaggerating. I'm not. You think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. I'm losing my goddamn mind, and I want to punch something, but I'm not crazy. I'll tell you that right now. Squidina from the Patrick Star Show is the better sister anyways. She's the better sister, and Sister Sam is such an unpopular, loathed, despised character that the Patrick Show retconned her into no longer being Patrick's sister, but instead just a regular background character who just shows up. Yeah, fuck you, Sam. Fuck you. Fuck this episode. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I just can't. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? This is what I signed up for, I guess, by taking the reins to review every SpongeBob episode ever, which, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have already done. So, you know, it's not like I'm unique or special or anything anyway. You have no idea how much I want this to be over. I want it to be over. Oh, we only have one episode left? Is that it? Huh? We only have one episode left? Oh, and it's actually really good? Oh, thank God! Thank God and baby Jesus above, or whatever religious figure you believe in. I don't judge. What? Did I even give my rating and ranking out for this one yet? Did I? I don't know. Fucking, 1 out of 10? Number 48 on the fucking list? Goddamn, what? I mean, what else? What? Oh, you're mad because I called it worse than, like, fucking Yours, Mine, and Mine, or Grandma's Secret Recipe? Get over yourself. This is my goddamn opinion, dude.
And I need to, like, close it down manually because it's fucking shit. God, shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!
I swear on my life, it's episodes like this that prove that SpongeBob was just a hop, a skip, and a jump away to becoming like an actual content farm in real life. This does not feel like an episode of entertainment. This feels like a content farm. How? How do you manage that? Why do I have to review this? What am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my life? Okay, I'm done with the segment. Fucking there's one episode left. Just please make this video end. Yeah, I had a mental breakdown in the last segment. That was me. I'd rather completely own up to it rather than inserting a forced gag where I pretend it didn't happen. Don't worry about me though, I'm okay now. Anyways, did you find that soundbite funny? I'm expecting to hear very conflicting answers on the matter. When it comes to toilet humor, fart humor specifically, it is a very slippery slope. It's pretty much just any hack writer's go-to for whenever they don't know how to tell any actual jokes. It's gotten a pretty nasty reputation nowadays due to being misused in a lot of crappy kids' cartoons.
Deal with this! You shall not pass!
Though, like with any good comedian, it can be made funny in the right hands. Perfect chemistry outright shatters any negative expectations from the outside looking in. Like, what do you mean that Season 7 of SpongeBob made an episode with fart humor in it? What do you mean it comes from a Sandy and Plankton team-up episode? What do you mean it's a massive fan favorite from this season and is actually really good? I don't know how the farts aligned for something like this to happen, but thank you for giving me a positive episode to finish this retrospective with. Perfect Chemistry is the show's true first ever Sandy and Plankton team-up episode. Ignore Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy, that one doesn't count. It's nice to see these two characters, who have never shared that much screen time, come together and bond over a common interest. It's always been an interesting thought to me how this show has two Poindexter characters, with one of them being good and the other being evil. I can't believe it's taken this long for two of the main characters to interact like this in any meaningful way, but fleshing out the character dynamics is something that SpongeBob as a show gets better and better at as it goes on, and in my opinion, should be appreciated more. But let's be honest with ourselves. You want me to talk more about the odious fart humor, don't you? Yeah, no, this aspect of the episode is done really well timed, surprisingly tasteful, and hilarious reactions from the other characters.
For crying out loud, Squidward, what the heck is wrong with you?
Helps that it's not actual farts, but just gas that happens to smell like farts. I'm just now realizing that the scenes in the Chum Bucket take place at night, while the scenes in the Krusty Krab take place during the day. I guess both restaurants just felt like having different time zones that day. 9 out of 10, and is number 8 on my list. Dang. I can't believe I've reviewed every episode from the worst season of SpongeBob SquarePants. Makes sense this is the last episode, since Season 7 is the fart from the butt of this show. The good news, though, is that things can only go uphill from here. Keep your cheeks peeled for next time, where we see some slight improvement? Finally, the worst season in SpongeBob history is now done. Woohoo! Let's go! Oh boy, alright, so we've reached the end of yet another SpongeBob retrospective. You know, it just occurred to me while working on this particular video that, oh yeah, I've been working on the past few videos during SpongeBob's 20th or 25th anniversary year, which, you know, I wish I got to talk about some better seasons during SpongeBob's Big 25, but, you know, oh well, I guess. I also want to apologize in advance about how messy the editing order is for this particular video. My friend and editor, Winter, got really busy with real-life stuff during production of this video, and she couldn't edit more than 2 segments, so, you know, the rest of us kind of had to step in and edit a few of her segments that I assigned to her, but, you know, she still always does good work, and I'm glad that she at least got to edit my favorite episode of the entire season, so shout out to Winter. And, you know, I know that some people in the comments of this particular video are going to question my mental health because of certain reviews, mainly the Big Sister Sam review, where I just have a full-on mental breakdown. But, you know, honestly, for this video in particular, like, I know I have a very, like, hyperactive personality, or at least that's how I present myself as in these videos, but, you know, again, it is very hyperbolic. I am very hyperbolic in these videos. That Big Sister Sam review in particular was actually planned, obviously. If I did have a full-on mental breakdown in the middle of recording, that would actually be kind of concerning, but no, that was very much indeed part of the plan. Actually, the funny thing about that wasn't even scripted. That is the first and only segment in this entire retrospective so far that I just went completely off the cuff and didn't even script anything for, so I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but that's for you to decide, I guess. But honestly, this kind of thing, like this entire video, or just whenever I get mad at certain episodes, I honestly like to think of it as a homage to other, like, very animated, hyperbolic YouTubers who get really mad, you know, at pieces of media for entertainment. The main examples I can think of off the top of my head are, like, you know, the Nostalgia Critic and the Angry Video Game Nerd, for obvious reasons. So, I feel like I was kind of paying homage to that type of YouTube content. I mean, to be honest, like completely honest, this type of thing is incredibly fun to write and voice for, so I can see why certain YouTubers have a lot of fun doing this type of thing and make it, like, and make it their main content appeal, I suppose. Honestly, for me, if anything, I feel like these SpongeBob retrospectives are slowly becoming YouTube poops disguised as SpongeBob reviews. And again, whether that's a good or a bad thing is for you to decide, but I feel like that's just a side effect of me and my editors honing in our craft. You know, especially considering that, especially with this video in particular, I noticed during production that the average length of the reviews for this video are longer, much longer than the reviews for every other video in the series so far. I don't know if that's just a side effect of me, like, becoming better as a reviewer, or maybe these episodes just have more to talk about, or maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know, but, you know, either way, it makes me happy, especially because, yeah, that's something that my editors pointed out too. They were like, wow, your reviews are getting a lot longer. And I was like, yeah, you know, it happens. But next time in the retrospective, though, we will be talking about Season 8. And Season 8, as I alluded to at the end of the Perfect Chemistry segment, is slightly better than Season 7, I guess. I'm actually currently in the middle of rewatching the season. I don't know when I'll get the video out. The plan is to get it out, like, within the first quarter of 2025, but considering how the Season 7 video is releasing way later than I would like, that might not happen, but that's the plan anyway. And of course, you know, as always, I'd like to thank, you know, everyone, all my friends, editors, for making this video possible. I want to thank Phantom Strider especially for, being willing to guest star in my silly little project. I feel like if he actually, like, watched the videos that I do, he would probably be appalled, especially considering that he's, like, a super wholesome, nice YouTuber, and I always, in my videos, I always cuss up a storm and am very vulgar, but, you know, still, I appreciate him actually answering, when I reached out to him. Thank you so much, Strider, for being in this. I really, really appreciate it. And look forward to SpongeBob SquarePants Season 8, which, reminder, this is the season that has Pet Sitter Pat, Are You Happy Now, and Smooth Jazz in Bikini Bottom in it. Godspeed.